So, hi everyone, thank you for joining in, and I wish you all a very happy Diwali. So, it's an annual festival here in India, and we are celebrating that. So, thank you for that, and I wish you all a happy Diwali. And today we are going to talk about how to craft your perfect portfolio website so that you can eventually get more clients or get hired for your dream jobs or whatever your target goal with your web application is. So, I'll quickly go ahead and share my screen. So, could any one of you please confirm it is visible or not? I think it is. Yeah, I think I can see my screen. Okay, cool. So, yeah. So, today's topic will be how to craft your portfolio website. So, first of all, a little bit about me. I've been a full stack engineer for around 6+ years now. And I've been doing full stack projects and web applications for 6 to 7 years. Also, I've been freelancing quite a bit. And recently, I've been building AlgoChurn, which is a platform for front end developers to practice their skills and prepare for technical interviews. So that's what I'm currently working on. And my other SaaS applications are Tailwind MasterKit. So you must be familiar with Tailwind UI. I've created something similar, but it's for some other use case. So that's what I've been working on too. So projects that I've been working, and I've been professionally working as a senior software engineer for around 4 years now. And yeah, that's pretty much about me. And I've been in this indie hacking ecosystem for around 2 years. And I really love what I build. I mostly get myself into front end, and but mostly it requires me to have to write some back end code as well. So I've been a full stack engineer quite my life. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And my own personal website is manuarora.in, and this website has helped me land jobs and get many freelance clients from around the world. Now I've been taking clients from the US and the UK, but initially I started off by taking Indian clients. So this website has evolved for over 3 years now. So I started off with a very basic website, and then I gradually improved and learned many technologies along the go and implemented on my learnings in this little digital playground that I have here right now. So it's accumulation of many things that I've learned across time, and this is my playground, and this is what I've achieved so far. So that is what I'm going to share today with you guys also, so you can land your next job or get your next freelance client from your own website. Uh, so I see some of the audio. Could you please? I'll just go ahead and mute all right now. And if you have any questions, we'll take the questions at the end. Okay, so we'll start now. We'll talk about what we are going to talk about in this talk. So first thing will be the target audience. Like, who is your target audience? Is it a recruiter? Is it a client? So that if you know your target audience, you will be able to better create your own portfolio website. So that will be the first point. Second point will be, what are the components that make a good, or rather a great website? So there are many things that come into picture, from design to the tech stack to what all things you can put up in a portfolio website that can impress your future user, client, or a recruiter. The third thing is how you can incorporate projects, blogs, and open source contribution into your own website, so that when the user lands on your website, he gets an idea of what all things you've been doing and how impactful your projects are. And at the end, we'll discuss some additional pointers which can eventually help you land your own gigs or get your next job. So all those little things that I talked about in the start that has helped me grow as a developer and get jobs, I'll put those pointers at the end, and we'll discuss that. And after that, we'll take questions maybe. So let's start talking about target audience. So basically, since you are having it on Codementor, I believe you guys must be having two agendas. Either you want to get jobs, or when recruiters visit your profile, you want them to contact you, so that you can put yourself in the best position to win as basically an employee. So you want yourself to project the best developer out there, who can basically communicate and who can write maintainable code. So those are the two things that you need to focus. The other one is when the client lands at your website and he's looking to hire you as a freelancer. So those are the two basic target audience that you can target. So if you're going for the jobs area, I'd suggest you have a basic website setup which is focused towards the projects that you have built. For example, if I show you my website, if you land onto my website and you go scroll down, you see projects directly. So I've got a handful of projects that I've done in the full stack domain. One is Tailwind MasterKit, the other is AlgoChain. So both are full stack. So if I'm a recruiter looking at this person's profile, I get an idea that he's building projects on the side and he also has a day-to-day job. So he's hacking on the side. So he's working day in and day out on his side projects, and also he has a daytime job, so he's already good with development and he knows how to market themselves as a developer. So that's the other thing that we are talking about. So that's the first thing, how you can position yourself as a job seeker in front of a recruiter. And the best way to do that is putting your front foot forward with projects, and the better the projects, the more chances you have of landing that interview that you're going to appear for. So let's say if I'm posting a job, if I'm a recruiter and I see your profile and I have a look at your projects, in a glance I can tell if you're good with projects or not. So it increases your chances of landing that job. So the first impression is quite good here. The second part is the, if the target user is a client and he's looking for freelancer, you want to basically put yourself,
Alright, me ladies, shall we begin
uh,
receiving?
yeah. So if your client is, I mean, if your target user is a client, you want to position yourself as the best freelancer out there who can communicate, who can manage projects, and who can deliver work on time. So that's the second agenda that we're going to talk about. So if you see, I've got a freelancer page as well. So I've been freelancing on Upwork and mentoring students on Codementor, and I've done quite a few projects. One thing you want to take care about is when you're pitching for your freelancing services, you don't want to stuff your end user with a lot of projects or a lot of freelancing sites. You just want to put your best 2 to 3 projects which make sense to them. So you can flip these projects anytime you want, but keep 2 to 3 projects. For me, I've put just 3 projects out there which are full stack and which are relatively simpler, because I don't take many complex freelance projects. I just take mostly easy to medium scale freelancing projects. So that's my target audience. And if you want to have a freelancing related profile, you want to focus more on the freelance projects that you've already done and talk about your freelancing lifestyle. So that is how you can position yourself in the best place to win for freelancing clients. So I have got both, because mostly I get my freelance clients from my website. So I focus more on the projects that I've done and the freelancing projects that I've done. So I've got a mix and match of both. So you can have both, but try to stick to one, which is whichever works for you. So those are the 2 points regarding target audience. Let's move on to the next slide. Just put it in the slideshow mode. Yeah, components of a good website. So there are 2 to 3 things that you can take care of when you're building your own website. First is the design. Second is what you put in, I mean, what you put up as the content onto your website. And third is how the end user is getting helped from your website. So the third part has worked for me a lot in terms of SEO. If you're not familiar with SEO is basically search engine optimization. I mean, how higher your website ranks on Google. And if you have good content, if you're consistently posting useful things that people can use, I think you can put yourself in the best position to win. So let's move on to the next part, which is simple design. So I've got a simple example here of Harsh. Harsh is one of my friend, and he has a really simple website put up, and he's a really great developer who loves building things with Framer, Motion, and React. And he has got this simplest website that I've ever seen. He's really good with the typography and the gradients of colors. Also, he's got this little blog snippets out there, and if you see the animation below, that is very subtle and it follows the next target area the user is targeting. So that is like, I really like this kind of animations, and it really sticks out. So he's sweating the details on the smaller things, to eventually make an impact. So if you also see some of his blog posts, it is very clean, and it already shows how much time it will take the user to read and how many words are there. And if you see the small little animations here and there, those make sense to me. So this is a great article, and the way he has laid out the design, it's very simple and minimal. And if you see the top bar, you see it scrolls. I mean, it tells you at which position of the page you are currently in. So that makes sense. It is the crux of this website is, if you keep things really simple and really readable, it creates an impact overall. So you don't need to sweat the details on creating the most fancy animations out there if your website doesn't drive traffic to your products, or if it doesn't land you interviews. It makes no sense having all those fancy animations. But if it is simple and have subtleties in your website, it makes a lot of impact in the end. So he's got a great website out there. I really love the entry fade in animation, the little blur, and then it creates the image on the go. So that's one example of Harsh. So that is what I mean by simple design and sweating the details, small little details, and keep the animations to the minimum. Secondly, you can provide value with your web application. So by providing value, what I mean is, I have this snippets page on my own website. So let's say I'm creating a stacked UI card effect, or let's say I need to show the end user how to add authentication. Let's say I'm building a freelance project for my own, and I run into a simple problem wherein the client wanted a stacked cards UI effect for their website, which looks something like this. So I created this with Framer Motion and React. It was simple. It was like 2 or 3 files. So what I did was, I created a code snippet out of it, and I generalized it, and I posted it on my website for other users to use it and implement in their own website. So what it does is, it basically creates a feedback loop wherein other users use your things, and they link your articles, maybe, I mean, they link your snippets in their blog post where they learned it from. And basically you are generally providing value. So whenever they want to have a cards UI effect in their web application, they'll come back to your web app. So this digital playground of yours can really help create an impact out there. And this is what I mean by providing value. It can be through blogs, it can be through snippets, it can be through even resources. So I'll talk about resources more at the end of this talk. But this is one way of creating value or providing value to your end users. So there are a lot of other snippets. So let's say I was working with toasts, and I found those toasts useful, and now I have a live demo of the toasts that I have. So it is also interactive. You click it, you get the toasts out there. So if you want to use this snippet in your own application, it is simply a copy paste fee. So that's how you could provide value with snippets in your web application. That's one way of providing value, actually. Other thing is, it helps with SEO. So whenever you post content online, I mean, any markdown snippets or web content, it generally gets indexed by Google, and if it is searched more, it will be coming up higher in search results. So it eventually helps as a SEO parameter for you as well. The other thing is, it positions you as an expert. So generally it is, I mean, it is subconsciously accepted that if you write a blog or write a technical content over the internet, people assume you to be an expert, and that can play really helpful in positioning you as an expert and increase your chances in getting a job or landing that client that you're looking for. So the entire goal of this talk is to help you position in the best place to win, so that you can get your client or the job that you're looking for. And that's what snippets can basically help you with. So snippets are a great way of doing it. How I achieved, I mean, most of my traffic initially was when I created a box shadow. So I basically love working with Tailwind CSS. Most of you would be familiar with Tailwind. And what I did was, I was running into a lot of box shadow issues. So what I did was, I created a playground wherein you could go to this website called box shadows, like manuarora.in/box shadows. And if you like any of the box shadows, you could basically click on this Tailwind JIT or vanilla CSS, and it gets copied. So any one of the people searching for Tailwind CSS box shadows will eventually land onto this website somewhere. So if I see Tailwind CSS box shadows on Google, it shows somewhere. So it shows up somewhere down below. So that's one way of providing value. And whenever they search for box shadows again, they land up here again. So that's another way of providing value to the end user. And it was also number two product of the day on product hunt, so that also drove a lot of traffic. And it was really, so this badge also really helped me get a lot of interviews for technical roles, because a lot of recruiters are actively looking for people on product hunt as well. So it helped me get 3 or 4 interviews that day. So yeah, that's the other part of it, providing value. Third is having something unique. So there are a lot of general websites out there which have about us pages or blog sections, or resources, and other things which are related to freelancers or general portfolio websites. But what can help you stand out is having at least one unconventional, or I'd say one unique feature. There is nothing unique these days, but we can call it unconventional because not everyone is doing it. So for me, what has worked is, and I directly took it from Lee Rock. Lee's the head of developer relations at Vercel. So Lee's a great developer. I've learned Next.js and React mostly from him. I attribute to my success that he has helped me a lot. And I saw this little now playing feature on Lee's website. So whenever he listens to some music, it shows whatever he's listening to. So that is one thing that is unique to him. And many people took that feature from him because his code is open source, and I really love that feature. And it really creates a wow effect that I'm talking about here. So you want to add more wow effects to your website, so that the recruiter actually knows, or the client actually remembers you some way, because he's actually scrutinizing and looking at 100 different profiles every day. And what makes you stand out is simplicity, and if you have a one or two wow moments here and there. So that is one thing that can set you apart from the general people that are applying for jobs and are applying for getting more clients into, for freelance work. So that is one thing. And the other thing is the command palette that I feel is really good. So Shubham is one of my friends. He's really a great developer. So he has this command toolbar here where he helps people navigate his website. So this is a really cool feature that I love. So if you want to go into this blog section, you can simply hit Command K and you can navigate through his website. That is another feature that is unique to him. It is not that unique, but you don't see this feature in many of these websites. So this is one other thing that is really cool to this person, and it can help you stand out also as a developer. So yeah, at the end, having something unique always helps you. Again, be approachable. So the most important part of your website is, because you want to talk to the user at the end when he has visited your website and he's convinced that you're the right guy, you're the right freelancer, or you're the right technical candidate that they're looking for. You want to be approachable, and you don't want to push them away from you when they're already making up their mind if they want to contact you or not. So having simple contact forms work really great, like having a mail to integration. Like when they click a button, they can simply send a mail. That works the best. Otherwise, a chat widget. So I'll show you a simple chat widget which is there on my website. So if you see, I have the simple chat widget down below. So once you click on it, you can basically type your email address and some message that you want to put in. And when you submit, this contact form sends me the message, and I can basically have a follow-up from there on. So this should be your end goal from your website: a user contacting you, or a recruiter approaching you, or a client basically asking you to have a small little 10-minute introductory call for the next project that they are going to work with. So that's the goal of your website, and you want to keep it really simple, and you don't want them to push with 10 different form fields which they have to fill before submitting. Because if you have 10 different form fields, the chances are they won't really fill it, and you will never get that mail. So you really want to have a simple chat widget out there which can help you interact more with your audiences. So be approachable. And Twitter, I'd love to talk about Twitter all day, because I get a lot of queries and I get a lot of job proposals from Twitter, because I've been actively using Twitter for around 1 year now. And Twitter is similar to your personal website because it is a whole together different marketplace. There, the tech Twitter is really strong. Just a second, somebody's mic is on. Okay. So Twitter is your best friend. Coming back to the point, I get a lot of requests and queries from Twitter in my DMs, and I consistently post. And I'll talk about Twitter at the end of the talk also, like how you can benefit from Twitter in the additional point section, and how you can basically build in public, build your projects in public, and how you can ask for help, because I've got a lot of help from Twitter as well, and a lot of people approaching me for help have eventually landed in a freelance business as well from there on. So that is how I've benefited from Twitter, and I've also helped a lot of people on Twitter. So it's a give and take relationship when it comes to Twitter. So yeah, be approachable and be kind towards your audiences. And if you get a mail, if you're lucky, you're getting people approaching you, do respond to them respectfully, and from there on you can carry on your conversation further, because the topic of what happens after you get a mail is of a different talk. So yeah, be approachable at the end. Again, we'll quickly wrap this projects blogs in open source section. So I've got a lot of projects under my belt, but what I try to do generally with my projects is to help someone out or to provide some value. And there's no problem if you're starting out and you have some cookie cutter projects in your portfolio, like you have some fancy little e-commerce application. The one thing that you can do is, let's say you have an e-commerce application as your portfolio project. So what you can do is you can either include new tech stack that you're learning. Let's say you're interacting with a database, you can maybe use Prisma as your ORM, and basically uh, write a blog on how to use Prisma with your Postgres databases. So that's how you build your portfolio from there. And try to build real world projects. If you don't have them, try to upscale your currently existing projects. Let's say we talked about e-commerce application. Why not add your own authentication system in your e-commerce application? Or let's say you have your own e-commerce application and you get a lot of queries, or let's say orders from there. Why not have some analytics on those orders, or build your own analytics systems for e-commerce applications? So you have a already existing project, you can think of ways to basically enhance it or scale it to some other different level. So building projects eventually builds authority. If you have proven experience with, let's say you're working with Next.js and you have built Tailwind MasterKit. So if you're building Tailwind MasterKit, which is a components library for Tailwind components, and a recruiter is looking for you for a Tailwind and Next.js person, it will be a no-brainer for him to basically hire you as a freelancer or hire you for the job. So you can put yourself in the best position to win for, if you have relevant projects that you're looking for. So that's how projects have helped me. So these two projects, Tailwind MasterKit and AlgoChain, have consistently helped me get more job requests and get more freelance clients. Yeah. The other thing is blogs. So I've been writing for Free Code Camp and my personal blog site as well. And that is because initially when I started out, Free Code Camp was the only resource through which I learned programming. So I spent a year and a half learning from Free Code Camp's curriculum, and it is my way of giving back to the community. So I write for Free Code Camp and I write for my own personal website as well, and I try to basically give back what I've learned recently. So while building AlgoChain, and interviews and coding challenges, and you can also write data structures and algorithms problems there. So I ran into a problem of how to compile and execute in 40 plus different programming languages. So I had to read a lot of documentation, I had to debug and tinker a lot, and I had to deploy my own solutions on a DigitalOcean server in Rapid API. I basically had to do discovered 10 different things before I came up with the feature and implemented it. So what I did was I wrote a blog around it, and it's an open source code base as well. So if you go to Code Rush, Versal.app. It is hosted on Versal. Big shout out to Versal because those guys are amazing. And here you can basically compile and execute code. So this is completely open source. I've written a blog on it because I learned the technology, I got good at it, and third is I wrote a blog for other people to reference it. So that is my strategy with projects and with blogs as well. Generally I write around project based blogs. So this is the process that I follow. And this is an open source project. I get a lot of I run into a lot of issues as well, so I keep on iterating, keep on getting good at it. And the way to provide value is through blogs. That, I mean, a one way of providing value is through blogs. You can write technical blogs, you can write, I mean, how to excel. If you're a good developer, you've been making decent amount of freelance income, maybe you could write a blog and help someone out, like how they can upskill themselves. So that this thing is also helped a lot of people get up and running with their own service, because this problem is quite generic these days. And yeah, it has helped a lot of people get up and running with. So we have got 40 plus languages. So if you want to compile something, you can basically select the language, select the theme of the editor, and click on compile and execute, and it compiles like native desktop application. So yeah, that's the other thing that I wanted to talk about is blogs. So not only this, I've got a lot of blogs on Free Code Camp as well, like how to integrate SendGrid for contact forms. So those are all practical examples that I run into, and those are like coding problems that I solve and that I help explain through blogs. So that is my way of communicating. Other thing is that, like, if you're good with speaking, you could also have a YouTube channel around the same thing. Basically the end goal should be to provide value that eventually will help you down the road with SEO or with people approaching you, or most likely, if you're lucky, job recruiters or freelance clients approaching you. So that is how blogs can help you. Also, people generally tend to think, like I talked earlier, that you're an expert if you're writing something over the internet. So that can help you and keep you in an advantageous position. Again, the third thing is open source. One thing I see that is really common is that you need to fill all these boxes with green, that you have to be really consistent coding every day. I mean, it's good if you code every day and push every day to GitHub, but it is not that practical for me because I've got my good days and got my bad days too. So this is my contribution graph, how it looks. It is really nothing really fancy, but it actually helps recruiters to analyze that you're at least active on GitHub. Because if you go into a organization and you work as a software engineer, junior or senior, you will be mostly interacting with the version control system, namely GitHub. Git, basically, you'll be working with Git, and will be either pushing your code to GitHub or GitLab, most probably GitHub. So that if you already have experience with GitHub, you will be having an edge over the others, because it shows that you're already a good team player, and you know how to collaborate in a team environment, how to raise pull requests, how to raise issues, and how to merge two branches. That those are like really basic things that can eventually help you get, I mean, get along with your team. So it really shows the recruiter or the freelance or your client that you're a really good team player, and you know how your code works. You can write maintainable code, and this is like the industry standard, so they already know that you know what it takes to be a developer and how you push your code to GitHub. So they don't have to train you, at least on these things. So I'll show you my GitHub, like how it looks. So this is a really simple page that I have here. I've got 2 or 3 good projects here and there, and I actively contribute to different, not only my code bases, but to different code bases as well. So for example, I find a really good project which is a landing page, and they're facing some issues with the dark mode. And let's say you're the developer who has worked recently with dark mode and how it works, what are theming in general. So you can go ahead and open their repository and maybe contribute to the dark mode branch of their project. So once you have that open source contribution, it will give you a boost also in confidence, because you're contributing to other people's code bases. That means you can read other people's code, which is like a great skill to have, because not everyone, you might be comfortable reading your code, but if you're comfortable reading other people's code, that can really play along. So that will help you eventually level up as a developer as well, and in turn it will help you project yourself as an expert also. So I'd recommend that you go ahead and start reading other people's code. It can be anything. It can be from the simplest of things, like from a to-do application, to more complex projects such as React or Angular. You could contribute to any of those, like Kubernetes. Everything is open source on GitHub. So you could go ahead and explore the open source code bases. And if you contribute to open source, generally it is considered a good practice that you're giving back to the community where you're learning from. So that can really benefit your developer journey, and you can basically have an edge over the others if you do open source contribution. Because I remember on Upwork, when I was applying to jobs, I asked clients specifically, like, why did you choose me over the others? Because I didn't have reviews, I didn't have anything under my belt with projects. So they were like, you have good open source contributions, and not everyone is willing. So if you see other people's GitHub on freelancing profiles, that was not that good. And I was really starting out, so I was really serious with GitHub and open source. That really helped me in my journey. So yeah, open source, again, you can be a team player, and it really projects the idea that you know industry standards. Cool. Moving on to the last part of our talk today is the additional pointers that I think can help you level up and that have helped me, because these are some things that have helped me a lot. So one is the share useful resources, and it can be from landing pages to icons to other things. So I'll quickly go to my website and go to the resources page. So these are the websites that I use almost every day when I'm taking on freelance clients. So let's say recently I was looking for icons, and I wasn't familiar with React icons. So I found React icons, and what you can do is you can have all the icons which are there over the internet, and you can import it into your React application. So let's say if you want to have bootstrap icons, or if you have box icons, flat icons, feather icons, every icon you can import through React icons. So I really find this website useful, and I really wanted to share it with others. So I had a small little card onto my website that can help potentially other developers also use that as a resource. So I have a list of all the resources, and the box shadow part that I talked about is also a resource for me as well as for others. So you can also have those kinds of pages under your website which are like standalone pages. Let's say box shadows will be a standalone page, and that will be a completely other resource. Other thing is you can have all the segregation. So if you see, a lot of people are using illustrations for their web applications. So if you see story set, they've got a really good handful and illustrations out there. So you can have your own resources page, things that you've been finding useful lately, and have a small little mention of them onto your website, so other people can get benefited from that. And what eventually will happen is you can down the road monetize it. I really don't want to do it, I won't even recommend doing it, but I've seen people do it lately. Once your website reaches good amount of traffic, you can basically monetize your resources page. People can pay to have their own resource card shown onto your website, but I don't really want to go to that domain. But yeah, that's one other way of doing it. The other part is sharing code snippets. Like I said, let's say you're creating a web app today, which is like requires logging with Firebase or logging with Nextauth or Auth0, and you create an authentication system. Now it won't take more than 2 to 3 files. So what you could do is you could share your code snippet, and logging in with Firebase is a keyword a lot of people are searching. So there's a good chance, if you write a good article on it or write a good code snippet on it and share it with others, you can get a really good advantage or a percentage of advantage that it can rank really good in Google. And once it ranks, you'll have recurring traffic coming onto your website. So the more the traffic, the more the chances of your target audience reaching your website. In your case, it can be a recruiter or it can be a freelance client. So that increases the chances. So everything that we have talked about in the talk today revolves around providing value, so that somehow people find it helpful, and it's a good thing if they find it helpful, and more people can visit onto your website. So the more shareable your content is, more the chances are for people to look at your website. And let's say if 1,000 people are looking at your website, and 20 of those are like your target audience, and let's say two of them contact you and you land one of them, that's a win for you. So that is what I mean by sharing code snippets and writing good technical articles also, that can eventually help you. And once you write technical articles also, right, you'll identify gaps in your knowledge. You'll definitely identify holes which are there, like you don't understand something, and when you're writing a blog, you'll make sure that you know the concept really well, so that it can benefit the other person, but you don't want to project yourself as a newbie in front of the audiences, right? I mean, that's a great skill if you can, but you generally don't want to. So that's the other thing which can help you position as an expert. And once you start writing blogs, you'll know that it is difficult to write a 1,500 words article, but there are sites like Moonbeam. So if you go moonbeam.com, so I use it all the time. So when writing blogs, I have few pointers. Let's say I want to log in with Firebase, so what I do is I'll write a few pointers here and there, like register to Firebase, create your service keys, XYZ things, and it can create a blog boilerplate for you. You can tweak down two or three things here and there, and you can get a full ready blog of, let's say, 1,000 to 1,500 words. Uh, right at your page. So Moonbeam has helped me, and I've discovered this recently because it's a great tool. And if you're also writing, I think it can also help you in other ways as well. But for me, it has been the blog part which has really helped me level up my game with blogs and technical content in general. So Moonbeam is one way of going about it. Building in public, yes. So we talked about Twitter, right? So building in public is nothing but sharing your progress with your Twitter audiences, or Twitter friends, as I call them. So let's say you're learning to code, or you're coding already and you're stuck with a problem. What you can do is you could tweet about it. Simply write that you've been doing this and that, and you'll find relevant, or I mean, interested people who are already facing those problems, commenting on your Twitter tweet, or asking you some questions. You can have useful and meaningful conversations and build your network from there on. So that is what I've been doing. So I've been building algorithm in public for quite some time now, and there were features that I had no idea about that I could implement, and the feedback that I've been getting from them is like amazing, and the network that I've built with them is like exceptional. So building in public is something that you should do if you're starting out as a developer, or even if you're currently a good, I mean, at a good scale, or still building your side project. So that is one thing that you need to keep in mind, that building in public is like a great way to interact with people. Before even your project goes live, you can have early feedback, which is like gold mine for you. So building in public has helped me a lot. And the other thing that comes with building in public is asking for help, because you will get stuck eventually. I mean, I've seen the greatest of developers get stuck on trivial problems as well. So it can be really helpful, and tech Twitter is really helpful, and they can really help you level up as a developer, because there are two things: you need to level up as a developer, and you need to market yourself as the best developer out there for the right job. So those two things, I think Twitter can really help you with. Sure, that was the additional points that have really worked for me for 3 or 4 years down the line. So that's it for this talk. To quickly summarize what we talked today, I'd like to go through the topics that we discussed. So first is keeping this design really simple and a targeted one, and you don't want to bloat on the animations part. You want to really have concise content, and it should communicate your thoughts, and something unique that to basically make you stand out. It could be a Spotify currently playing, it could be simply showing your GitHub or Twitter stats in a creative way. It could be showing your projects in a creative way, or something that really makes you stand out. Sharing your journey, like I said, you could use Twitter for that. to share your journey, or for me it has worked out to be this. Like on my personal website, I have this life change log and update. So whatever I do, I basically add a little tile here and there. And my website is open source. I keep on updating it. So this is what I've been doing for the past years. So this is my change log that has worked for me. And one thing that comes with sharing your journey is sounding like a human. So you don't want to sound like a robot. You're a human. The other person that is showing your profile is a human. So you can introduce a little humor here and there. I do that all the time, and I really like to keep things as playful as it could be. And sharing your journey in a playful manner can really be a creative way of triggering that point and making that guy approach you for that job or that freelance gig that you're looking for. Your website should be your digital playground. Like you cannot create a website and abandon it the next day and forget about it for a year or so. You have to constantly iterate it. You have to love it with all your heart. You need to think in your mind that this has to be the best website that I develop. And one way of doing that is, let's say I started off my website with HTML and CSS. When I was learning React, I ported it to React. When I was introduced with Tailwind, I changed the entire CSS of my website to Tailwind. And when I got to know about Next.js, I completely ported it to Next.js. So I kept on iterating and iterating and iterating. And if I want to learn a new concept, I think of a feature that I can implement in my own website, learn that concept and implement that feature onto my own website. So that is one way of upskilling, and the other way of not abandoning your website and making it your own digital playground. The last thing would be to be approachable. And to being approachable is like, don't be difficult to reach out. Don't make them fill out 10 different form. Typically, ideally, you want to basically have them click a button, and it should trigger a mail. If you have WhatsApp, that works like a charm as well. uh, it should be easier for them to reach out. You need to think from their perspective. You go to some other person's website, you want to be spending time talking to them and not thinking how to talk to them. So be approachable, be really easy, and open up all the doors for opportunities. So that's it for the talk. If you have any questions, do let me know in the Q&A section, and I'll be happy to answer them. And I hope this talk provided some value. I'd share the resources at the end of the chat that I've used. I'll also upload the slide deck somewhere and share the link with you guys in the YouTube description video might as well. So thank you for joining this. And if you have any questions, do let me know in the Q&A section, and then we can wrap this video.
Manu, there's a question in the Q&A about what's the best way to find open source projects. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, generally what I've been looking also is like, when I was starting out with open source, the initially projects were really overwhelming for me. So I directly jumped. I remember when I was starting out with web development, I jumped onto the Angular project directly, and it was a nightmare for me. I didn't really want to get into that ecosystem, and I was only correcting documentation, and that too was not getting accepted. So that was like a nightmare. So what have been working for me is getting simpler projects first, and that really depends on how you search the GitHub search, how you effectively use the GitHub search feature. So we have this company called Razorpay in India. They are really good. Their tech team is amazing, and they're really good with web and creating integrations. So I follow their Twitter, and they recently launched their open source website, like how they're contributing to open source. And I jumped onto this open source website, and I saw that I could contribute in, because they had this light mode going on. I thought I could introduce a dark mode concept there. So what worked for me was I coded it up, I pushed the code, and back and forth there were some changes, and then it eventually got accepted. So what worked for me was following them on Twitter, like actively looking for projects, what people are doing, what my target company is, and what they are doing. So Razorpay does a lot of open source contribution. Most of their projects were in like things that I don't understand. For example, Java, they do a lot of Java things, and they do a lot of TypeScript. I'm getting started with TypeScript, not that good with it, but I'm eventually learning. Again, my website is my playground for TypeScript as well. Recently ported my code to TypeScript. So I saw an opportunity there through Twitter, got into the open source repository of Razorpay's open source page, and contributed from there. So this is what have worked for me. Where I mean, Twitter really helps you find out good projects and look for simpler projects first. So I'm associated with Fireship also because I've learned a lot with Fireship. If you're not familiar with Fireship, it's a YouTube channel of Jeff. He's a great guy, great developer, and he has a lot of open source projects there which are beginner friendly. And if you follow any of the GitHub stars out there, like Eddie is there or Kunal, and there are a lot of other people, they have a lot of beginner friendly open source repository if you're looking for it. But if you have something really specific, you'll have to dig down a lot deeper. So that is what have worked for me lately. I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, I'd be happy to elaborate more on it. You can reach out to me on my Twitter, and I'll be happy to talk about it more. So, are there any other questions? Okay. Do you think it's more practical for fresh developers to have a portfolio, or is it for all levels? I think everyone should have a portfolio website. Like if you're in the US, you must be having some government ID cards, right? In India, we've got our own ID card. So if you're a developer or even a designer, it really helps to have your own. It is your place, right? Websites, portfolio websites are really personal to me. I think that's my own place to vent out, and it is unfiltered. I can write whatever I want, I can share whatever I want. If I'm not feeling like writing, I won't. If I'm feeling like writing, I'll write anything. So that's my personal space, and I feel everyone should have it, and that can really play out really well in your case as well. Spam is asking what framework are you using language. So I'm basically a React developer. I'm a full stack developer in the JavaScript ecosystem, but I love working with React. And lately I've been using a lot of Next.js. And Next.js is amazing. So we've got Vercel's NextConf tomorrow, right? So it'll be great if you guys are attending it. It's a great framework, really, really intuitive. And I recommend everyone to use it. Give it a try at least. It's a great, great framework. Blog versus YouTube, which is best for building a portfolio? If you're good with videos, like I'm really not that great with speaking in videos, so I go ahead with blogs. But I would suggest you do both, because wherever you can put out content, do it, because there's a saying that goes like content is king. And if you're generally helping people with your blogs and videos, eventually you want to drive that traffic somewhere. So you have a blog and you have a product, you can use that blog to drive traffic to your product. Or you video works like a charm as well, because videos age well, age really quickly but age really well. So YouTube can also be a great tool for you to eventually drive traffic. So wherever you can put content, just do it. I have my own blog, I have my YouTube channel, I have Twitter, even on Instagram I try to put technical content. So yeah, that's my take on it. Isn't better to avoid contact forms in order to avoid fake messages, emails? I think SendGrid already so John Paul is asking, isn't better to avoid contact forms in order to avoid fake messages and mail? So I have SendGrid integrated with my own website. I think it has a decent spam control method, but eventually you will get some spams. So out of 100, you'll get, let's say, 5 to 6 spam emails. So it's better if you're getting 2 clients from that, and you can buy a maybe premium service that can have some kind of spam detection and removal, and it can help you down the road. Cool. I think this I already have answered. What is the best way to find open source projects to continue? Do you have any good portfolio website example for backend developers? So I don't really come across good templates for backend developers, because backend developers are more interested in the more practical work that is going on. I mean, I've been a full stack developer, but my focus has always been on front end because it gives you that instant gratification. You build something, you have it in front of your eyes, and it feels good. But I definitely, you can reach out to me on Twitter, and I'll have those ready. One, by the way, I have one website template that I wanted to show you guys, and it is this Tailwind UIS website. Amazing example of how putting up content in a meaningful way has to be. So they've got this light mode, dark mode, doesn't really matter. The things that matter is the design of this website. It's really simple. So for a person like me, it can really help out because it has articles, it has conferences like speaking use cases, and all those things which I've been doing lately. And it is like amazing. The design is really simple. So the person who is designing all these website is James. Follow that person on Twitter, and if you can get to learn a thing or two about him, that will be great because he also shares design knowledge and snippets onto his Twitter. So that's amazing. I absolutely love this website. So everything is laid out perfectly. Work, download CV if you're looking for jobs. This shows that you're good with writing and you know what you're doing. If you're speaking, also positions yourself to be a good expert. So those are the things that have worked out for me as well. And I think this is a really good template. If you can go ahead and use it, it will be amazing for you. So I'll just share this link also in the chat. Post in the chat. How important do you think is having a picture on yourself on your portfolio website? Do you think if it invites negative bias sometimes? I think I can elaborate on the point of sounding like a human because I'll give you a small example of it. One second, I'll go to my website. Freelancing. So if I go to my Upwork, they really suggest and they really focus on why having a good profile picture can help you level up as a developer. I mean, not level up as a developer, but help establish trust among the people that you're reviewing your profile. So same is with your own website. If you want to sound like a human or if you want to project yourself as a human, you need to have a profile picture. Go to any social media platform. Everyone recommends you to have a nice profile picture wherein you're smiling. uh, the shot is above your chest and you're basically showing your face. You're smiling, there's no background or blurry background, or basically you're focusing on your face so that it subconsciously helps the end user to establish trust. So for me, having a profile picture is basically a way to establish trust. uh, has helped me because 2 to 3 months back, even I was not using a profile picture, but then I put it up because a lot of other developers who are like pros in this field recommended me to have at least one profile picture to build trust. Because if other person is viewing your website, if you're not using humor into your website, you mostly come out as arrogant. So if you're having a smiling picture, I never smile, I'm sorry for that, but if you have a smiling picture, I think it can really help you out. Again, establishing trust is how you go about it. Okay, so I'll pin this also. My Twitter username is, so you can follow me on Twitter, or basically you can ask any questions if you have on Twitter. I respond there. How many external profiles do you suggest to be displayed on your portfolio? Twitter, quote, and Stack Overflow. Less is more. Wherever you have your best work, I would suggest show that first, because if you have 20 different things, it won't play out good. How I tackled this problem was, I'll quickly share my screen again. So initially, answering the same question, here I had like building algo churn, mentoring on Codementor, and some XYZ website, building placeholder tech, building Tailwind master kit, building box shadows. But then I had some analytics on this and nobody was clicking on any of the links. So what I did was building algo churn and other cool things. If the other person is interested, except for algorithm. In any of the other things, he'll hover onto those cool things and he can see what I've been doing lately. So this is called abstracting or hiding the information and only showing whatever you want to show first. So I want people to recognize me by my work which I've been doing through algorithm, and then if they're interested they can have a look at what other things that I've been doing. So I have a software development agency called Eastern T and Placeholder Tech, and I'm doing XYZ things on some other websites as well. So algochurn is first thing that I want to project, and the second thing is Twitter because I'm the most active there, and I update everything there almost every day. So even if you have any of your queries and if you reach out to me there, I'd be replying there probably the most. So less is more in my opinion. If you have a really good GitHub, by all means share GitHub first. But if you're really active on Stack Overflow, put it up first. But less is more, yeah. Twitter, I'd really love if you have Twitter or Stack Overflow, yeah, whichever works for you. How many projects should we have at our portfolio? As much as you can, but show only which are relevant. So I've got like 170 to 180 projects, but I show only 4 at the start of my projects list. If they want to see more, if they're really interested, if they would be impressed with 1 or 2 projects, that's a win because less time spent and more judgment passed. So they're spending less time onto my website, but they are judging me more and they're more confident and they're trusting my skills more. So with less, they'd be willing to achieve that more. That will be a win for me. If not, you can have a small little see more in your projects list that I have, and then you can expand on all the projects that you've been doing. If they want to focus on content quantity more, you can have a simple thing as well going on. I hope that answers your question. Okay. One single page portfolios versus a portfolio with various sub pages. Initially, I started off with one page website, but then I gradually added more pages because mostly SEO. So I wanted to have sub pages, and recruiters will mostly gauge your profile in a single go, but how that recruiters land on your website is also important, right? So the more pages you have, the more meaningful pages you have, the more chances of you getting noticed on Google also increases, right? So the way they land onto your website is another thing. So yeah, that's that. I mean, it totally depends on your use case. They'll generally gauge you with your home page, but if you have more pages, it increases your chances for them to land on your website. Is it okay to include an ad like Google AdSense on a portfolio website? I don't really think you want to show ads or clutter your website with ads. I mean, if you want to monetize, there are a lot of other use cases. I mean, a lot of other ways to monetize. Like, and that too, I'd suggest not to, because your personal website should be either, if you're, I mean, providing an ebook or a course, then it makes sense to have someone redirect from your portfolio website. But if your goal is to get more jobs or get clients, I think you should not put up with ads or something. Which one you recommend, dynamic or static website for portfolio? What do you mean by dynamic or static? So my one, I mean, if you're talking about how your content goes onto your website, my website is dynamic because I update my content a lot. So yeah, if you're planning to add blogs, and ultimately you're going to have your own dynamic website. Static, at least start with static. Have anything, at least you need to have something in order to progress from there. But there's nothing wrong with static websites. uh, if you're updating your content like very frequently, makes sense to have a dynamic website. Mine is a statically generated. Some of my pages are so. If you're familiar with Next.js's ISR feature, incremental static regeneration, so it gives you the best of both worlds, the dynamic features as well as the static. So my page refreshes every 15 seconds and it checks if it is if the content has been updated. If it is updated, it builds again. So I'm using the best of both worlds, but whichever works in your scenario. It totally depends. How about imprints and personal information? So for me, I've got one mobile number that I use for business and one email address that I use for business. Email address is hi@manu.in and mobile number that I have for business. So I like to keep it that way because I want more and more clients approaching me. And if you have your own personal phone numbers, I'd suggest you to switch to a business one and keep one for your personal self if you want to go to that road. Otherwise, email works fine, I guess. How much time did it take to build your portfolio website? It took me 4 years since I started working on my portfolio website. But it won't take you 4 years. It will take you probably a week because I keep on iterating things. I keep on trying out new things, and I never stop. If there is a framework tomorrow which excites me, I will port my entire website to that framework and try it how it works out for me. So because it's my playground, it works for me that way. So that is how I treat my portfolio website. And if you're passionate about your own website, I think it conveys to the other user as well that you're passionate. It really shows from a GitHub contribution chart like how much time you spent on working with your portfolio website. So yeah, I mean it's a lot of questions. So yeah, okay. I think we can wrap this talk here. Ben, I don't really understand your question, Mom. Okay, yeah. Which open source have you worked? So I've worked with a variety of open source projects. I don't exactly remember because one of the ways I search for open source projects is through Twitter. And if I find it fascinating, I directly go to their website and go to their GitHub pages and try to contribute. I mean, if you can go to my GitHub, you'll see a lot of contributions that I've done. Nothing in specific really. Helping people out, upskilling myself when I don't understand something. I don't really contribute. First, I try to understand and I try to find good first issues. Mm. I think where I can find them, uh, maybe we can have another talk on how to find them because I think there's a lot of problem with people finding open source projects. So there's a, I mean, what works for me might not work for you in finding open source projects, but there's a general idea on how to approach them. You go to a repository, you go to their issues, and you look for good first issues, like where you can help them. You have to have a helping mindset and not the box filling mindset. If you can genuinely help them, they'll be mostly happy with you helping them. But to find them is a struggle. To find them is hard work. It's like finding the right job. It's like finding the right client. Treat it the same as finding the right repository. So it will take time. You'll have to be patient and you'll have to spend some time there. For me, what works is I really like to contribute on good UI related projects, and I really like to contribute on improving the performance of a web page. These two things I find intriguing. If I have some time apart from my side projects, I'll contribute to these projects. And I'll go to my two or three favorite list of organizations which are doing really good on open source. Tailwind is doing a really great job with open source. They have their website open sourced. If you can find something there that you can contribute, even implement a small design feature there, like you think this could have been done in a better way, this SVG animation would have been a little better. So that would have been made more sense to them, I mean to you. So you could contribute to Tailwind CSS's website as well because their code is open source. So that is how I do it. So if I go to Tailwind CSS's website today and I see one or two snippets here and there where I feel I can contribute, I'll open their code and raise a pull request. So that is how I'm doing it. I mean, that is how most of the people are doing it as well. You don't really go with the mindset of I'll contribute today. You have to go with the mindset of how I can help this person achieve their goal, so that tomorrow they might help me when I'm stuck. So that should be your go-to practice. If you would offer your work in various spoken languages, would you recreate the portfolio with another domain related to the language, or keep one single domain and offer a change language? Internationalization works well. I think change language would be the feature I would be implementing, but I've really niched down on my skills. Like I want to serve a really specific audience, and I don't want to get into the general marketplace. Like I don't want to work on Angular, Vue, this and that. I have a really specific set of people that I want to work with. I want to help indie hackers. I want to help SaaS own people who are working with SaaS applications or creating their own web apps. I want to help those kind of people. So, and I don't really want to work on a multilingual application. That's one thing. So yeah, if you're asking that, I think change language option would be a better thing because I don't really want to deal with DNS and all those things. Those things are confusing to me. So I go with the easy one, whichever ships faster, whichever is faster to ship, whichever is faster to launch. I'd go with that option. What is the advanced skill in React JS? I think everything is basic if you worked with that framework enough. But in general terms, I think React performance suspense is a good thing. Context API, Redux. If you're talking about React ecosystem, Redux is a good thing to know. Those are the complex things that people find, but if you've worked with them enough, nothing is complex. Nothing is really complex. Most of the projects I've worked on are company projects that are not hosted on the internet. Should I include them on my portfolio? Yes, if you can ask your potential employer if that works for them. Uh, if they're okay with them listing your, I mean, if you worked on it, you can obviously list it. You're also listing them on your resume, right? So you can list it on your website as well. So I think we can wrap this up. We've already crossed the time limit. I think it's 9:37. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you find this helpful. If you have any questions, do let me know on my Twitter. I'd be happy to talk to you guys. And if there is any way I could help you in any way, do let me know. And thank you so much for your time. All right. Happy Diwali, everyone. Take care.